this on or not?
Yes, ma'am.
It is, okay, I wasn't sure. I'm having a wonderful time because I'm a retired teacher. Well, I'm almost retired. I'm retired from public school teaching, and I'm lecturing at the University of Texas at San Antonio. So I still have 1 or 2 classes that I've been doing the last 5 years there. I've been around for a long time, and I believe that education is the foundation of our democracy, and I'm very concerned about what has happened. Before I retired even, they had cut all the funding, and they're starving our public schools to death. And I really feel very strongly, okay, I don't know, I'm a native Texan. I'm from San Antonio, Texas, born and raised there. Went to Douglas MacArthur High School, and graduate of the University of Houston. Okay, that's about me. Now we can talk about all those other things.
Questions.
Hopefully someone has a question. Yes, ma'am.
What do you believe are the problems in elementary education?
Well, I was a high school teacher and a middle school at one point. I think if I were to teach again, I would probably want to be in elementary. That's where it starts, and I think the classroom size, when you cut funding, the supplies, and the idea of terrifying very young children with standardized testing is just appalling. I mean, the first time they made me give the test, because I was an elective, afterwards I said, when did education stop being fun? And I think that this stress and pressure, particularly on small children where they can't play, is really appalling. So you can tell where I am on standardized testing. Yes.
Ma'am, I'm going to sound very frustrated, and I don't mean to, and I'm trying to sense your frustration about this problem. I have a daughter who's a teacher. I've spoken to other parents who have kids who are now teachers, that next generation coming up, and it seems that consequences for poor performance is always reflected to a teacher as opposed to the student or the parents. It's like, when I went to school, I flunked a course, I repeated it in summer school, or I didn't advance. Today, it becomes the teacher's problem. So how do we get this turned back around where responsibility is to a student, and how does the State Board of Education help us?
Well, yes, if we got in trouble in school when we were growing up, we got in trouble at home, and teachers were respected. I do think something horrible has happened with the demonization of teachers, and I think there needs to be more responsibility at the public level. And I think, public education is only about 160 years old. We need to remember what a gift we have, and we need to make our children understand that it is a privilege, not necessarily a right. But that's a social problem. When the press and now they want to evaluate teachers based on standardized tests, when that happens, if the parents don't respect teachers, why will their children respect them? I think we have a big problem here about respecting our teachers and involving them in the curriculum.
How do we fix that from the State Board position?
Well, I think the State Board can be, we have review committees, they have review committees. I think we need to listen to teachers, talk to teachers, and certainly I believe that would help if they had more of a voice and a say instead of the sort of top-down from the publisher, teach the test. But it has to start in our whole society. We need to respect teachers.
What other responsibilities in the position you are seeking?
Excuse me?
responsibilities of the position that you are seeking?
What are the other responsibilities of the position that you're teaching?
Oh, when I was teaching in the public schools, I was the director of the theater department, and I was in charge of the staff as well as my own. At the university, it's a little different. I mean, I am in charge of,
No, she's asking about the responsibilities of the state board position that the position you're applying for, you're asking.
oh.
The responsibilities.
Well, I think, we're, I'm learning about this, but we're looking to review textbooks and work for curriculum. We also they oversee the monetary fund and the investments of the endowment that helps provide for public education. I think they're involved in certification, and there have been issues about whether or not superintendents and people who has to have classroom experience. I mean, I think there's some involvement that is important, if that answers your question. I'm sorry.
You had a question, ma'am?
No,
Okay, go ahead.
Ma'am, could you just elaborate on something you just said? I want to make sure I got it right. Did you say education is a privilege, not a right? Is that what you said? And could you expand on it?
Well, if you realize that for most of several millennia, there was no such thing as public education. It was for the wealthy, for the elite. One of the things that's made America great is that we have universal public education. And I don't think we want to forget what a difference that makes in our life. You know, the reason we have notary publics is most of the world didn't know how to sign their name or read or write. You know, this is a new thing in the context of history, and it is a great privilege that anyone, no matter who their parents are, where they come from, if they're willing to work and study, they can have the education to give them any position or any job that they want to pursue. This is a wonderful thing, and there are people who are kind of challenging the concept of that.
One second, guys. 1 minute? 2 minutes? One last question? Go ahead.
Our millennium children of today, 65% thinks Judge Judy is a Supreme Court
I'm
justice.
sorry, I didn't hear the last part of it. 55%?
Of our millennium children believe that Judge Judy is a Supreme Court justice. You ask any of them what was the federal 3 levels of our government, they can't answer you. Why is our children not being taught civics in school as we did back in the old days, where we now know who controls what?
So the basic question is, why are our children not being taught civics like we were, so we can be informed about the government?
Well, it's called curriculum, and that's one of the things the state board, and it's called textbooks. And I often wondered that myself when I was teaching, you know, some of the history was a different version than what I might have learned, and civics, yes, kind of were all rolled in there. But I think that's what the State Board of Education, it's the only elected place that's not appointed by somebody at a state level. And it's important because they can have a say in curriculum. They can have a say in those textbooks.
Yes, but when I went to school, you didn't graduate unless you took civics. You did not take federal government. If you didn't know federal government, you didn't pass and you didn't get out of school. You need to know what your government was doing. You need to know, be informed.
I agree.
Why was that taken out of the curriculum?
20 seconds.
Well, I think it was, I wasn't in charge of having it taken out. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm running for the state board. I want to know why some of those things were taken out.
Time's up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.